And you are Javin Austin Meadows?
This
Is it Javin or Jevin?
Javen.
Javen. Javen, all right, thank you. Defendant is charged with 2 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder, 2 counts of felonious assault, strangulation, and a forfeiture. Of the alleged victims or the alleged victims been notified of the hearing and have an opportunity to be present?
They have, Your Honor. 2 of the 3 victims have elected not to attend today. They have all been consulted in this case. They understand. They all agreed to the disposition.
Mr. Meadows is going to plead guilty to counts 1 and 4. Is that correct, Mr. O'Dye?
That's correct.
All right. A charge of murder, an unclassified felony carrying a mandatory sentence of 15 years to life and a fine of $15,000. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Okay. And for the record, the victim in that case was?
William Grooms.
All right, thank you. And as to count 4, which alleges that on or about May 31, 2026 in Highland County, Ohio, you did cause or attempt to cause physical harm to a V2 by means of a deadly weapon or dangerous ordinance, to wit a F-150 truck. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Anything you'd like to present?
Just a few things very quickly, Your Honor. I'm sure the court, obviously from your experience, understands that counts 1 and 2 of the indictment would have merged. They're charged in the alternative. That is part of how we came up with the agreement that we came up with. The other part of how we came up with the agreement that we came up with is simply that victims 2 and 3 in this case, Jada Davis and then the final victim in the case, were extremely understanding and wanted to get this behind them. The reason that we were able to handle this case so quickly, so efficiently, is definitely the work of Detective Butler, who put a huge case together with 3 victims and a lot of moving parts in a very short amount of time, and had all the evidence ready to present to the defense as soon as the case was indicted. So we do appreciate that. There is a family here that is left without their loved one. Miss Grooms is here. The actions of this young man on the day in question left her a widow at a very, very young age. And I know that she would like to address the court.
All right, Mrs. Groom.
Javen, you took the act that I will never forget. That early Sunday morning, you took away my husband, my best friend, my biggest support. All over your actions. Now we have to learn to live without him. My husband didn't deserve this. My husband and son had stayed with girlfriend and ex-girlfriend that night. But you choose to get in that truck and head straight for my husband and hit him. Now we have to call him our hero. You didn't have to do what you did. You could have easily took your truck the opposite way and controlled your actions. It just shows what kind of person you are. Thank you.
And I did read the affidavit from the municipal court. It was my understanding that Mr. Grooms was just a bystander, happened to be there at the time this was taking place. No
Yes.
previous contact between he and the victim that you're aware of.
Well, he was the victim. No contact with the defendant, didn't know who he was at all. There is crystal clear video of this incident, actually. Probably the best video I've seen in 20 plus years. Mr. Grooms and his son Carson are leaving Holtfield. They see what's taking place in the parking lot. They both jump out, leave their doors open, and run over to assist Jada. At that point, the defendant jumps in his truck, makes a very short turn, and just runs over Mr. Grooms and kills him.
There's no words to describe what Jada did that night. I mean, he wrecked the lives of the Grooms family. And that night, he wrecked his own life, his own family's life, and he caused, if not wrecking Jada Davis's life, he's caused significant turmoil that will take years to heal. But he's a young man. He has never been in any kind of trouble. He's 23 years old. Other than this just one bad evening, he was an exemplary citizen. He worked for the Hague Motors for 4 years. Was a service tech there, making $22 an hour. Now, none of that can really be solace to the groom's family for what he did to you and how he has truly wrecked your family. But this is a young man who I believe he's sincere when he and I would talk. And I've been down to jail a half dozen times to see him. He's a young man who I believe is sincere about rehabilitating himself, never touching alcohol again. I believe alcohol was a real contributing factor in this. His ex had just called off their wedding, and inappropriately, some buddies took him out, and he was drowning his sorrows and using alcohol as a crutch to get through that heartbreak when he did these horrible acts. We would ask the court to go along with this joint recommendation. He's here. He's admitting all of what he did, and he's willing to take responsibility for his actions, even though it's not going to help the groom's family or bring Mr. Grooms back. In light of this tragedy, he has done everything to make it as easy on everybody, to own up to what he did, and I believe he's going to be a model inmate.
I'd like to apologize for my actions. Very selfish. I don't really got much else to say besides I'm sorry. I did not mean to do what I did. I'm owning up to what I did. I can't bring him back, so that's all I have to say.
Anything else?
Yeah, that's all.
Mr. Dye, any other information or?
No, Your Honor.
There's real tragedy here that's being caused by, in my judgment, an act of uncontrollable rage. Alcohol may have been a factor, but I'll say this. I've been around for a long time now, over 50 years in this business, and I see people that are alcoholics and abuse alcohol all the time. Sometimes people say, well, alcohol causes people to do things they wouldn't otherwise do. Others say, and I think maybe there's some truth to that, is that it unmasks who they really are and removes their inhibitions to doing things. In this case, you went into an uncontrollable rage. A lot of people get drunk and just pass out. They become sad. They become jokers. They think lovers. Other people, engage in unspeakable violent acts, and that's what this was. It's a shame that your first offense was such an unspeakable event, and I'm sure that will be present with you, but it'll always be present with the victim's family and friends and the people that he's left behind, and also with your former girlfriend. In fact, that she was also attacked violently, and that's what really caused the event that led to Mr. Grooms' death. So it is the order of the court that you be and are hereby sentenced to a mandatory term of 15 years to life on count 1, and a term of 3 years as a minimum on count 4. Those are to write sexually to one another. You could be kept in prison for life on count 1, but if they do decide to release you, if they determine that post-release control is appropriate, is applicable, I should say, to count 4, then that means that in addition to any parole supervision, you would be supervised for a mandatory period of 5 years. Harm caused in this case was so unusual that no one single prison term for either of the offenses committed as part of the course of conduct would adequately reflect the seriousness of the offender's conduct.
After the preliminary hearing, Judge Randolph ordered that the sheriff's office go take all the firearms out of the defendant's home. They did that. They've been holding them ever since. I put in the entry, if this is okay, that all the firearms being held by the sheriff's office, and there's 10 of them, be released to the defendant's father now.
Okay, that's fine to me. I mean, there's those charges pending. I assume you have no objection.
No objection.
Right. And who is the father? What's the father's name?
Chris
Chris.
I'm sorry?
Chris Miller.
All right, go ahead and put that in the entry then.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You're remanded custody.
The court begins a proceeding by calling the case involving job in Austin Meadows. Meadows confirms his first name after the court briefly checks the pronunciation. The court identifies the allegations in the case, which include 2 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder, 2 counts involving assault on police officers, strangulation, and a forfeiture-related allegation involving the victims. Before proceeding with the disposition, The court makes sure that the victims have been notified and have had an opportunity to attend. The court is informed that all 3 victims were consulted and informed about the hearing. 2 of them chose not to attend, but they understood the proceeding and agreed to the disposition that was being presented. The court then confirms that Meadows is pleading guilty to counts 1 and 4. Count 1 is identified as murder, an unclassified felony carrying a mandatory sentence of 15 years to life and a $15,000 fine. When asked how he pleads, Meadows answers guilty. The victim connected with that count is identified as William. Count 4 concerns conduct alleged to have occurred on or about May 31st, 2026 in Highland County, Ohio. The allegation is that Meadows caused or attempted to cause physical harm to another person by means of a deadly or dangerous weapon, identified as an F-150 truck. The court then allows the prosecutor to explain the agreement and the circumstances behind the resolution. The prosecutor explains that counts 1 and 2 of the indictment would have merged or would have been charged in the alternative, and that this was one part of the reason the parties reached the agreement. Another part of the agreement involved the other victims, identified as Jay Davis and the remaining victim. The prosecutor says these victims were extremely understanding and wanted to put the matter behind them. Their position helped the case move toward a quick and efficient resolution. The prosecutor also gives credit to Detective Butler, who assembled a large case involving 3 victims and many different details in a short period of time. According to the prosecutor, Detective Butler had the evidence prepared and ready to present to the defense once the case was indicted. The prosecutor then acknowledges a family that has lost a loved one. Mrs. Grooms is present and addresses the court. She tells Meadows that he committed an act she will never forget from an early Sunday morning, and that he took her husband away from her. She describes her husband as her best friend and explains that his death affected their children as well. The family is now forced to learn how to live without him. She stresses that her husband did not deserve what happened. Mrs. Grooms continues by explaining that her husband and son had helped save Meadows' girlfriend and former girlfriend. Despite that, she says Meadows got into the truck and drove directly toward her husband, striking him. Because of what happened, the family now has to regard her husband as a hero. She emphasizes that Meadows had another choice. He did not have to drive toward her husband and could have taken the truck in the opposite direction. In her view, he could have controlled his actions and prevented the result. She says the choice he made demonstrated what kind of person he was. After delivering her statement, she thanks the court. The prosecutor provides more detail about Mr. Grooms and explains that he was simply a bystander who happened to be present when the incident occurred. There had been no previous contact between Mr. Grooms and Meadows, and Mr. Grooms did not know the defendant. The prosecutor describes the video of the incident as extremely clear and says it was probably the best video evidence the prosecutor had seen in more than 20 years. The prosecutor explains that Mr. Grooms and his son Carson were leaving Holt Field when they noticed what was happening in a parking lot. Both men got out of their vehicles, leaving the doors open, and ran over to assist Jada. Meadows then got into his truck, made a very short turn, and struck Mr. Grooms with the vehicle, killing him. The defense attorney openly recognizes the devastating consequences. The attorney says there are no words to describe what happened that night and acknowledges that the incident destroyed the lives of the Grooms family. The attorney also recognizes that Meadows' own life and the life of his family were destroyed by what happened. The defense says the incident caused significant turmoil for Jada Davis as well, and that the effects of what happened to her could take years to heal. At the same time, the defense asked the court to consider Meadows' personal background before the incident. The defense explains that Meadows is 23 years old and had never previously been in trouble, apart from the terrible evening involved in this case. The attorney describes him as an exemplary citizen. Meadows had worked for Heg Motors for 4 years as a service technician and was earning $22 an hour. The defense acknowledges that his employment, age, and previous record cannot give the Grooms family any comfort and cannot repair the damage caused. The attorney presents these details only to give the court a picture of Meadows' life before the incident. The defense also tells the court that counsel believes Meadows is sincere about rehabilitation. The attorney says this belief developed after visiting Meadows in jail approximately half a dozen times. According to the defense, Meadows has expressed a commitment never to touch alcohol again. The The attorney identifies alcohol as a significant contributing factor in what happened. Meadows' former partner had called off their wedding, and some friends took him out afterward. The defense describes Meadows as drowning his sorrows and using alcohol as a crutch while dealing with a heartbreak. The attorney presents this as part of the circumstances surrounding the terrible events, without denying the conduct itself. The defense asks the court to accept the joint recommendation. The attorney emphasizes that Meadows is present, admits what he did, and is willing to accept responsibility